Hello, everyone. Phil Lee returning with another episode of Civil War Chat. It is the 23rd of September, 2022. Click on the subscribe button down here in the lower right to subscribe to future episodes. And then also that notification bell in the far upper right, it's like a voodoo doll. If you click on that, an academic historian who tells a false version of the history of Civil War and Reconstruction will die. It's somebody we don't know, either you or I, but that's the benefit of uh, punching the button up there that acts like a voodoo doll. Today, I'm going to talk about how corporate America became woke. It's not strictly a Civil War or Reconstruction story, but it does get into a discussion of how America is abandoning traditions and heading off in a direction that is destructive to our society. So let me go ahead and get into that, and then we'll proceed. How did corporate America become woke? Have you ever wondered? According to Vivek Ramaswamy's new book, A Nation of Victims, it started with the 2008 government bailout of Wall Street at the expense of the little guy, meaning the ordinary taxpayer. Fabulously wealthy bankers created fraudulent mortgage-backed investment securities. They flooded them into the market for years, knowing them to be worthless, by offloading the risk to government and quasi-government agencies, such as Gennie Mae and Fannie Mae. They could not get hurt unless they held some of the securities themselves on the reckoning day or on the day of reckoning, or were instead relying upon fabricated insurance policies issued by carriers such as AIG that did not have enough money to pay them off. Except for Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, none of the Wall Street fat cats were held accountable. The federal government had to make good on all of the losses, and that meant that you and I had to cover all of this. Consequently, the little guys on the left began to take control of America's biggest companies by taking control of the obscure custodial firms that vote the great majority of the proxies at the annual shareholder meetings. Now, custodial firms became popular for two reasons. First, most investors increasingly did not want to hold physical stock certificates. It was much easier to have a custodian hold them in book entry form in a computerized system. So if the stock was sold, you didn't have to take the stock certificate to the broker and then have him use that certificate and to send it to the buyer. Instead, it would all be electronic book entry. The second reason is that investors since 2008 have progressively gravitated towards index funds that are managed by computers. There's no human portfolio managers to make rational decisions about how the share should be voted. If, for example, you invest in an index fund that tries to match the Dow Jones Industrial Average Performance, and what it does is it tries to invest in the Dow Jones stocks in proportion to their weighting in the Dow Jones index, which changes from time to time. But the point is, all of that is done by computer. There's no, intelligent being making a decision whether you should own Apple or Intel. It's just a question of what percentage of Apple and Intel is in the applicable index. The computer just simply matches that for your index fund. Now, today, there are three leading custodial firms: BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. Thus, if you have an index fund with Vanguard that includes Apple Computer in its portfolio, then Vanguard will vote your proxy for you concerning policies that are up for a shareholder vote at the Apple annual meeting. For example, if there is to be a vote on Apple's policies with China, then Vanguard will vote your shares on your behalf. After 2008, left-wing activists identifying themselves as corporate America stakeholders instead of shareholders approached the custodians to promote so-called ethical investing. The most prominent feature of ethical investing concerns environmental, social, and governance factors. They are euphemisms for Democrat Party policies involving climate, feminism, and racial dogmas. In time, the ESG doctrine saturated BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. Thus, when they vote the proxy at Exxon, they may well vote against the interest of the company because so-called ethical investing opposes the growth of fossil fuel companies. The votes are made in accordance with a woke agenda as opposed to a rational decision based upon a knowledge of the applicable company, and in this example would be Exxon. Unfortunately, our society may have amplified this problem recently with the government loans to companies to keep them afloat during the so-called pandemic of COVID. While there is not yet a full accounting, there's little doubt that the loans were massively abused. Massively. Consequently, President Joe Biden feels it's okay to go make a public or make a executive decision to require taxpayers to pay off about $1 trillion in student loan debts. Taxpayers who never signed up for the loans have to pay off the loans of somebody else in a program that doubles the per person forgiveness to Pell Grant students. It's supposed to be $10,000 per student, but if the student had a Pell Grant, it doubles to $20,000. The interesting point is that 60% of Pell Grant students are Black, even though Blacks represent but 14% of the population. All this is a woke agenda, and it is truly impacting corporate America because these companies, State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock, vote the proxies in accordance with environmental, social, and governance policies. So earlier this month, Vivek Ramaswamy, who wrote the book I'm referencing, also formed index funds of his own. So if you want to be in an index fund, you can buy his, and it will work just the same way. It will mechanically match the index that you want, but he's going to vote the shares. He's going to vote the proxies based upon the interest of the shareholder, not those of left-wing so-called stakeholders with ESG priorities. Now, I don't have any financial interest in Ramaswamy's business, but I found that his explanation is enlightening, and he's doing something. He's actually doing something to make it stop. If you got BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard dominating the custodial business, then there's no reason for them to change unless they've got competition, and that's what he's offering now. All this wokeness, of course, is anti-traditional, and anything that's anti-traditional is not good for Confederate memory. I want to bring to your attention my book, The Dreadful Frauds, Critical Race Theory and Identity Politics. I must assure you, there is after studying these issues, there is absolutely no doubt that if critical race theory it becomes the accepted doctrine in our schools concerning the history of race relations in the United States, there will not be a single Confederate monument standing anywhere. If you want to get the facts to fight back, get The Dreadful Frauds by Philip Lee, $16 at Amazon and other fine bookstores. If you want a copy from me, autographed, email me, Phil, PHIL _Lee, LEIGH at me.com. The cost for an autographed copy will be $20. I will cover the postage to you if you are here in the United States. Okay, Thanks for watching, and don't forget the voodoo doll up there that if you click on that will eliminate an academic historian who has been spreading untruthful interpretations of Civil War and Reconstruction history. I look forward to seeing you next time.